Hello, my name is Omar,
I'm Nick.
and today we'll be talking about tabletop games. We have a special guest. He is an e-board member of the Tabletop and Untitled Gaming Club.
Hey, what's going on? So my name is Nathaniel. I'm actually the president of the Tabletop Gaming Club here at Wentworth. We're called TAG, for short for Tabletop and Alternative Gaming. And yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So we are going to be talking about tabletop and table. I know Nick has prepared a lot of notes about the history of games. This is going to be great. I just prepared games that I like. So Nick, do you want to start off with a little bit of history?
Sure. Do you want to go into what's most popular, or what actually is it first, Omar?
What is the first? Oh.
So the first game ever created. It's arguable, right? So like,
Okay.
if you look back in time, you're talking like Senate's probably like one of the first ones with like ancient Egypt, and then there's a few others. There's like, it's kind of hard to remember back to, or like, it's hard to date back to whenever the first like recorded game was ever made. There have been, not to get like be a huge history nerd here, but there have been like records of essentially, stone, like painted stone tablets and things like that people used to play games, or like potentially in like the dirt. And then Senate, which is a game that was created by the ancient Egyptians, is probably like one of the first games.
Is that the one that kind of looks like a snake? And
Yeah, yeah, that's the one you're thinking of. And then with the evolution of that, you're more like first like sort of modern games. You're talking like, and when I say modern, I mean in the last like 2,000 years. You're talking like chess, last 1,000 years chess, which like became very popular like medieval ages and like everything like post that. But I'd say like really popular tabletop gaming probably started in the last 100 years, and it probably exploded in the last 30.
Well, I hope
probably.
so. Tabletop gaming is
So-
really fun. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't like a lot of the older games like Monopoly or Clue too much.
So-
Monopoly is just not very balanced at all.
Yeah. So you want to get me going about? Don't get me going about Monopoly. So like, when I think about board games, and if we're just talking modern board games here, I try to categorize them. Like it's like when someone asks me who comes into this hobby blind, and they say like, what should I play? What is out there? What are sort of the levels? I think of it in terms of there's about anywhere between 4 to 5 levels of gaming, and this is just board games. This isn't including like Dungeons and Dragons.
You don't count that as a tabletop game?
It's different, right? So like,
I'd say it's
so
called
it's a role playing
cosplay,
game.
but-
Dungeons and Dragons is a role playing game. It can be Dungeons and Dragons can be as intense as you want it to be. It can be as casual as a couple of friends sitting around a table with some drinks and a sheet and just role playing. Or it can be as intense as someone literally builds an entire table full of terrain and you're playing on that. You know what I mean? So, but yeah.
Yeah, to go off your point about older games such as Senate, their research, it's shown that it has traces back to 3500 BCE, which is fairly old.
Yeah, and that's like Senate, and then you're talking like the Egyptian. If you go even farther back, there is like, whatever the game, I forget what it is. I should know this name, but it's the game where you have like the little pebbles inside of the little dips, and you move them across.
I know what you're talking about.
I know exactly the game I'm thinking of, but like there's evidence that dates even back even farther, because there's like archaeological finds of like people like digging in the dirt and like playing games like that. So it's really hard to say like what the first official game is. There's yeah, I'm kind of just talking out of my back end here, but one thing I would highly recommend is if anyone is listening to this and they are interested in the history of it, because I don't want to dwell on the history of board games too much, but if you are interested in the history of board games, there is a great video by Shut Up and Sit Down, that's their YouTube name. That is the YouTube name for probably the most popular board game reviewers online. And I forget the gentleman's last name, but his first name is Quinns. He has a really good talk where he goes into the history of board games and how that sort of like developed and changed over the years, literally starting with Senate, working up to like modern day games. So I highly recommend that. So, but yeah, if you're talking about like jumping back to what I was saying, if you're looking at the sort of the levels of board gaming, we all start out, or the majority of us start out playing games like Candyland, games like Shoots and ladders. That's a big one. Yep. Some kids learn checkers when they're young. Some kids also learn chess. You start off with these really, really basic games. I like to call them Walmart games, Walmart shelf games. If you walk into any Walmart and you look at the shelf at Walmart, you're going to see the most advanced game you're going to see at the shelf at Walmart is like Ticket to Ride. And the most basic game you're going to see is probably Candyland.
So I actually don't agree with that because I go to the Walmart board game section every single time I go to Walmart to see what they have, and they have some pretty good stuff.
It's not that they don't have good stuff. I'm not saying that the stuff at Walmart is bad, right? But I'm saying the 75% of the aisle at Walmart is like Hasbro or Parker Brothers, right? You got your Monopolies. You got like 4 versions of Monopoly, 4 versions of Clue, Trouble, Sorry, Life, whatever, you know what I mean? These are games that, so again, jumping back to what you have, sort of like kids games, right? This is like your first level that you learn as a child. Candyland, Shoots and Ladders, things like that. Games that have literally no skill involved in them. Sorry to any professional Candyland players out there, but there's no skill involved. It's literally just pick up a card, move, roll dice, move, right? There is no skill involved. But that's fine because as a child, you're not learning how to strategize. You're learning how the functions of a board game work. Just like creating a random set of numbers and then moving a character. That's literally all you're doing. Then, as you get older, you start to learn games like you're introduced to your Parker Brother games, Hasbro games, Trouble, Sorry, Monopoly, Clue, Risk, even to an extent, in a way.
Risk is really good.
Yeah, it's Risk is tough because there's like versions of Risk that are really good, and then there's like other versions which are like not so good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they make a lot of different versions of Risk. It's really weird.
Yeah, there's been some like updated versions of Risk over the years that are fantastic, and then like some other versions where they've taken things away from the original game and it suffers.
Yeah.
You know,
Actually, I have the 60th anniversary of Risk, and that one actually comes with, I think, it has the first timeline of Risk, but it also comes with like 6 of the different Risk game modes, including the original one that Risk was based off of. What was that called, Nick? The original thing that was
Conquest. It's probably like Conquest or Classic or something like that. I forget what it is.
I don't know how to pronounce it in French, but the translation from French to English is the conquest of the world.
Yeah. So these games are kind of tough because a lot of people love them, and there are some choices in them. There are some like strategic choices that are presented in games like that. I think once you start playing more advanced games, you kind of like move away from these. I'll tell you right now, the only game that I still play that is of this like second level of Parker Brothers is probably Clue. I think Clue still has a lot of merit to it in the fact that it's the original sort of whodunit game. It's still complex enough that like an advanced board gamer can enjoy it because you're trying to deduce something, but it's simple enough that you can teach it to a child. Yeah. You know, and they've come out with other versions of Clue, like Clue Classic, and then like Clue Master Detective, which is even better, I think. And these versions of the games actually like present some amount of choice. And then you have like people online who like create their own rules and like sub make it so that there's more strategy involved versus less chance and things like that. So I'd say that's like your second level. Your third level of gaming is stuff like that's sort of like baby's first advanced board game, or like intro level board games, something like Catan, Ticket to Ride, Betrayal on House of the Hill. What else is in this category? I would say like slightly more advanced party games like Codenames.
Oh, I like Codenames.
Yeah, Codenames, Decrypto, games like Werewolf, Secret Hitler. Those are like your subterfuge games. All of these games are different genres, but they'll kind of fit into this sort of level of, okay, it's not really hard to take someone who's been playing Monopoly, Clue, and Life their entire life and transition them into a game like Catan, Ticket to Ride, where the randomness of the game is more hidden. And that is what I think sort of identifies these levels of games, is that like at level 1 it's all random, and then at level 5 there's like no randomness, right? It's all your choice. And then your level 4 is games that are like, now you're talking like pretty advanced stuff. You're talking just off the top of my head, thinking like Western Legends, Concordia, which is probably like a step up from Catan, stuff like Bargain Quest, if anyone's ever played Bargain Quest, boss monster. You could probably include like some card games at this level as well. Card games like Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon,
Magic the Gathering
would be a big one. That's like your level 4s. Like you're rewarded. You're really in those levels. The randomness is almost just not there. In a game like Concordia, there is almost like no randomness to that game. It's all choice essentially.
I actually haven't heard of Concordia before.
So Concordia is it's probably in my top 5 like games right now, I would say. And we're just spouting randomness here, but Concordia is like if anyone knows Settlers of Catan, or it is just known as Catan now, Concordia is just sort of the next step. It's Catan, but there's no trading involved with each other. You're only trading with the bank, so it's an economy-based game. I guess it's more what you would call like a Euro game, if anyone knows what a Euro game is. And I can kind of speak to that in a little bit. And then your final and 5th level, not to drone on about this, but your sort of final and 5th level of game is your most advanced games out there. You're talking your Gloomhavens, your like really advanced legacy games, Twilight Imperium, if anyone knows what Twilight Imperium is. You're talking these really big, expansive board games that have a lot of weight, a lot of depth, and they take a long time to play. Like you could argue also like your brass Birminghams and stuff like that might be at this level, but there's sort of level 4 and 5 kind of blend together in my mind a bit more than the other ones do. Just because like once you get to that level of play, it's really like how long can you spend playing a game versus how hard is it to play a game, essentially.
So going off that level idea, I have a question for you, Nate.
Yeah.
You also have tabletop games that involve general knowledge, such as Trivial Pursuit, Scrabble. Even you could consider the game a life, because you would have to like sort of know how your life will be sort of planned out, what would be best decisions. What would you categorize those as in the scale of 1 to 5?
2, probably. So it's not about how much. So like take a game like Trivial Pursuit, right? A game like Trivial Pursuit, the more you know and the more trivia you know, the better you're going to do at the game. However, the basic components or rules of the game are simple enough that anybody could do it, right? It's like a level 2. The problem with a game like Trivial Pursuit, again, is that, yeah, it's fun to answer questions. It's fun to try and do trivia, but there is still a randomness to the movement, right? And I'm not trying to come on here and say randomness is bad in games. Every game has a chance, right? There's always chance involved in games, and it's depending on the type of play you are, the span of how much chance you're willing to have in your game can change, right? Personally, me, I don't want a lot of chance and randomness in my games. I want all of my decisions to matter because I want to win on my own merits. I don't want to win from a roll of the dice. Some people, and it's not wrong, love to win off the roll of the dice. They love that feeling of rolling the dice, getting the number they want, flipping the top card of the deck that they totally need, or something like that, and that's totally okay. But there's this sort of spectrum that in board gaming that you can explore between, that is the, literally all chance or no chance and everything in between. So to answer your question, Nick, level 2, probably. But that's not to say that if you aren't really knowledgeable and you enjoy trivia games, that's bad. There are tons of trivia games out there that honestly are better than like Trivial Pursuit. Yeah. Like there's one of the best trivia games on the planet is Wits and Wagers. If anyone's ever played that, yeah. So much fun because it has it's trivia, but it's also got like guessing involved. So it's a trivia game where you don't need to know any of the answers, because it's all guessing with numbers, and it's tons of fun. If no one's ever played that, look it up. Great game.
So
yeah, I have played that. It is
really good.
I haven't, but so we've been talking a lot about like the different types of games in terms of like complexity, but there's also so many different types of tabletop games, and so these I went on and did some research on this. I'm gonna go through a couple different categories that I have found.
Yeah, hit it.
The first category is board games. Typically, they use pieces moved or placed on a pre-marked board and can often include table, cards, and role playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next one is card games. The primary devices play is cards. The next one is dice games.
Card games you could also consider like a TCG as well. Most card games nowadays, like outside of a 52 card deck, like you have a 52 card deck and you can play like Gin, Rummy, Poker, Blackjack, whatever. And then you have like TCG games or trading card games, which is like kind of in that level again, but it's like slightly different.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
All card games. Then we have dice games, which uses one or more dice as their sole or central component. We have tabletop role-playing games, which is where role-playing is the main thing. It's decided on the character's attributes and actions through speech normally, and they are determined based on their character's characterization. Actions succeed or fail according to a set of formal rules or rules and guidelines. And then, of course, we get into the strategy games. Games where players' decision-making skill have a high significance determine the outcome, which sounds like that's the type of game that you like to play.
Yeah, I mean, so what's funny about that list that you just sputtered off there is that every single one of those games, every single one of those categories you just listed can blend together into other categories.
Of course.
And that's the beautiful thing about board gaming is that you can play a board game that involves lots of dice rolling. You can play a board game that involves a lot of cards and deck building and things like that. Or you can play a game that combines all three of them and things like that. Within the club here at Wentworth, jumping back to tag here at the school, we try to include and prioritize games that the students want to play, because why wouldn't we, right? And we have students coming in every week who are playing something different almost every week, right? And sometimes they want to play the same thing. So we have a large group of students that come in and play Magic the Gathering, myself included. They come every week. That's all they want to play. And it's because that game offers enough variance and they love it that they just want to keep playing it. And we have a dedicated group of board gamers who come in every week. And usually they switch it up. But you see them playing, something as basic as, again, Secret Hitler or Werewolf, which is like a subterfuge game. We have to lie to each other.
Subterfuge?
Subterfuge.
I haven't heard that word before.
Yeah, so it I'm not going to get the exact definition right, but it is essentially trying to subvert other people, right? You're trying to subvert other people's opinions, right? You're trying to trick, lie, deduce who is not the enemy is not the right word, but who is the odd person out, I guess, right? In a game like that. And then we have, and then this, like tomorrow night, they're coming in and playing a love letter tournament, which is a game based on, how could I describe love letter? It's a card game. It's a card game where you're trying to like have the highest number, eliminate other players, and read the numbers that are in play. So it's actually kind of like blackjack, but it's like kid-friendly blackjack, if that makes sense, because you're trying to like see the game,
Yeah, but every card also has abilities as well.
I'm not saying like, I'm saying the basic reading of the cards is similar to that, right? Because you're trying to look at the cards that are in play and kind of count the number, and then but at the same time the cards say like king, prince, guard, things like that. So it's like a really well themed game that has this underlying mathematical like idea behind it, which is the best part about board games, is when you take something that everybody knows, like Goldfish, like if we're just talking card games, Goldfish, Gin Rummy, poker, blackjack, and you take something like that has a very, very basic set of rules that has never changed over the course of X amount of time, and then you like turn it on its head and you turn it into something new and like, new and unique, so. Anyway, but yeah, so they're doing that tournament. Tag is doing that tournament tomorrow night for Love Letter, and our amazing secretary is secretary of the club is putting that on, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it. I hope I can, but unfortunately with work it's kind of tough. So, but
yeah. So there's a couple more I want to get through. The next one is tile-based games which uses tiles as one of the fundamental elements of play. And then, of course, we have party games, which is a game that's meant to be played at a party. Typically, can support more than between like 5 and like 10 people normally, and are typically easy to learn and is also fast-paced.
Yeah. So, yeah, and this is like when I was talking about with the levels again, in a way, not to harp on that, but a party game is a great way to introduce, again, a new person to someone who's never really played an advanced game into advanced games, right? Because if you sit down with someone and they play Codenames, and they look at Codenames and they look at the tiles and the words and everything about Codenames that makes Codenames a unique game, and they're like, well, this is different. This is not, you know what I mean? This is a completely different. So what is this? And then they start diving into more advanced games after that. You start looking into like, oh, what else does this company make? What else do these people make? And that sort of like leads you down this rabbit hole of exploring this gaming culture, I guess, this gaming world that is now like exploded in the last 20 years, even the last 10 years, actually. Like 30 years ago, you had people like importing games from like Europe and translating games and like that were in like French and like trying to play games that like nobody knew what they were. And then over the years, you have it's just gotten more and more popular in America, which is thank God, right? And that's also through like the rise of like game stores and things like that board gaming and tabletop card games have become more popular. I actually think pop culture has a lot to do with it as well, like specifically like Dungeons and Dragons. Like Dungeons and Dragons has exploded in the last 10 years, you know, large in part to, you know, television shows like Stranger Things and, you know, celebrities playing it online, and Critical Role had a huge part to play in that, if anybody knows what Critical Role is and stuff like that. And there's all of these different things that sort of bring these like, games and like into like the limelight, and it's generally through pop culture, which is like pretty cool. So
it's very, very cool. I don't ever think we got into like whatever history that Nick has wrote down. Do you want to do that now?
Sure. Do you want to go into like where these games came from or what years they were released?
Well, I don't know what years they were released.
So as we had mentioned earlier, things like chess, Senate, checkers all were around. Senate and checkers were both around 3000 BCE. Chess was 600 AD, so that was actually fairly more recent than checkers and Senate was. Mayhem was 2700 BCE. Backgammon was 3000 BCE. Royal Game of Ur was 26 to 2400 BCE, and that's all I've written down for years.
Okay, now what about location?
Senate, which was mentioned, which was ancient Egypt. Checkers actually was ancient Mesopotamia. Backgammon was in ancient Persia. Mayhem was ancient Egypt. Royal Game of Ur was ancient Mesopotamia, and chess was India, and also could have been China.
Have you played backgammon, Nick?
Yes, I have.
Have you?
Once. I had a friend that was really into backgammon, actually, and it's good. There are people that like swear by that game. For me personally, I'd rather play something else, but there is like a very dedicated fan base to that game.
Yeah, my mom plays that nonstop. Like that's the only game that she'll play. Like I remember when I was younger, when we had a neighbor who moved away, they used to come over and we all go swimming. They would just sit on the table and play backgammon. That's all they did. It was great, and they just talked over it. It was fun. And I learned how to play through my mom, though she doesn't like to teach me games.
Yeah, my mom was kind of the same way. She's more into like the sort of like tabletop games that involve cards, not really games like Monopoly.
Also, my mom has this amazing ability. You can give her a new game, teach her how to play, and then play the first game, she'll win. Yeah, I don't know how.
Yeah, my mom's really good at that too, for some reason. Like, she'll win the first game, and then she'll like never win the game ever again. Like, it's very odd.
So, here's the thing. So, I taught my mom how to play Ticket to Ride because, you know, I'm not very good at explaining things, but when I did teach her, my dad, I tried teaching, but he was really tired, so he didn't really pick up. But my mom picked up pretty well. And my mom ended up winning by, I think, 9 points. Now, that's only because I made a really dumb move, okay? No, so I had all of my ticket cards already completed, but I was afraid that I was going to lose the game, so I drew another ticket card, and I couldn't complete it because we only had like one more round each, and I ended up losing down to 9 points for that, when in reality, if I didn't draw that ticket card, I would have ended up winning by 1 point.
Jumping over to like parents and family and stuff like that, like when I moved back to Massachusetts a couple of years ago, I didn't have, I had sort of like my kind of group of friends that I had remained friends with, even prior to me moving. But my, like now that I'm older, it's like spoiler. I'm 29. I turned 30 this year, so I'm a bit older than a lot of the students here, which is like kind of weird. But I've noticed that as I've gotten older, I have like one best friend, and then the rest of my friends is literally my parents and my brother. Like those are my friends now. So I forced my parents to play board games, like, because I came home and I came back to Massachusetts and I started collecting, like, my board gaming. I got really into board gaming in the last 10 years, 8 years probably. And I had always played, like, your basic sort of games. But my parents, when I grew up, my parents didn't know what Ticket to Ride was or what Catan was 20 years ago. We didn't know any of that stuff. So when I came home and I moved back here and I lived with my parents a little bit, and then I moved out and I got my own place, I taught them how to play a lot of board games. I taught them to play Ticket to Ride. My brother, who loves Catan, it's one of his favorite games of all time, he taught them how to play Catan. And I'm not trying to gloat here, but I got my parents to sit through and play an entire game of Nemesis. If anyone knows what Nemesis is, it's pretty intense and it's pretty nuts for I wouldn't say my parents are newer board gamers, but they are definitely not advanced. But I got them to sit through and play the whole game, and my mom loved it, which was pretty funny because she was like fighting aliens and on the spaceship, and she was having an absolute blast with Nemesis. So
that sounds very, very fun. Yeah, no, I tried to convince my family to play board games with me, and I never did. So I ended up buying board games and never playing them because I can't get anyone to play them with me.
You gotta come to the board game club, man.
I do. It's just
we were
that.
actually there last week.
Yeah.
Oh, you were there last week?
We
I couldn't go last week. It sucks.
I was there
we
the
were-
last 2 times, but I can't go anymore because my boss is making me work.
You gotta work on Mondays now?
Yeah, and Monday nights. Hey, it means
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, unfortunately we had to switch the nights just because this semester, last semester was great because all 5 of the officers, the e-board was on campus, right? We had a master's student, it was myself and another third-year student, and then we had 2 sophomore. They're gonna hate me. My current standing vice president and my secretary are gonna hate me because I think they're sophomores. But shout out to Gavin and Sadie. Sorry if you were not sophomores. I forget what year you guys are. But they're all great. But unfortunately, myself and the treasurer are both on co-op this semester, and then I'm back for the summer. I don't know if he's back for the summer or not, but then I'm back for the summer, and then our current standing VP, Gavin, he stepped in for our previous VP, Brian, because Brian unfortunately had to leave halfway through the semester due to personal reasons. And then, so Gavin has sort of stepped up as the vice president, and then his significant other, Sadie, is our secretary. And they have been great in leading the club between this entire semester. Because I've only ever been able to make it out like 2 nights since we've started, and I don't even know if Jeremy's been able to make it out because we're both just so busy. But we're hoping we got this love letter tournament coming up for TAG. We're hoping to do a Magic of the Gathering tournament later this semester, which is going to be like a sealed tournament where everyone's going to get a whole bunch of cards and going to get to play. It's going to be really, really cheap to participate. That's all going to be for fundraising within the club. And every time I go on a Monday, we still have a decent amount of people coming out, even though a lot of people are busy with co-ops and internships and things like that.
And jobs.
It's getting kind of crazy. Yeah, and jobs. So, unfortunately, if you're a student and you're listening to this, you're like, why is TAG moving their nights and stuff like that? Well, I'm sorry, but spoiler: if we don't have an e-board member there, we can't have the club. So we have to do it on nights where people are available. Yeah. What's nice though is if anyone listening to this wants to come during the summer, I'm going to be here during the summer, and we'll be able to do Monday nights during the summer again, which will be nice. So we're probably gonna keep doing Monday nights during the summer, if anyone's still here. So, but funny enough, I think it'll probably just be me and Jeremy who will be here this summer, which is
No, I'll be here this summer.
Well, no, I mean e-board members.
Oh,
we have to be there to watch it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
There's actually a party game I recently got. It's called Don't Get Got. It's one where everyone gets a couple hidden tasks they need to complete. But you don't do it it's a game where you go set it up and then you go do other things, and it runs kind of like the background. All right. I was showing Nick this game.
Oh yeah, this is
Yeah.
This is literally again. This is SUND. Shut up and sit down. The guys on YouTube that like literally the most popular board game reviewers out there. This is one of the games that they collaborated with the creators,
Which was it's something potato. Big potato?
yeah, Big
Small
Potato Games. Is it Big Potato
Games.
Games? I think it is.
Yeah,
Is it Big Potato Games? Yeah, no, this is a great game.
I had never
think
actually played it. I have a copy of it and never played it.
Yeah, it's one of those games that like you can do it at a party and it happens in the background while you're playing it,
Yeah.
which is like really really cool. Yeah.
What else? I bought another Big Potato game for them because I have like 2 of their stickers.
I think it's Baked Potato. If this is a Baked Potato game, they also made Blockbuster, which is like one of my. That is, oh god, I love
You sure it's Baked
Blockbuster.
Potato?
If it's not, even if it isn't, like if anyone out there is a movie fan, play Blockbuster. Like Blockbuster is so much fun.
That sounds familiar, actually.
Yeah, like you can find Blockbuster at Walmart. It was a Target exclusive for a little while, but you can find it at Walmart, Target. Like anyway, that is a great game. If you want to play a game that is all about movies and all about your knowledge of movies and how
It's Big Potato Games. They did make Blockbuster.
It is, yeah. It's such a great game. They also made a music version of it, which is like pretty fun.
Oh, I have the Muffin Time.
Yeah, I'm not really big into that.
No, I mean
But-
neither.
yeah, but man, I love that game. I play that game all the time with my family. My girlfriend hates it. She hates it because she hasn't seen a lot of movies, and she hates games that involve what's the word I'm looking for? Like what is it? Not scatter. Not Pictionary.
Trivia?
No. The one where you have to like act out the
Charades.
Charades. Yeah, she hates charades, and Blockbuster is like 1/3 charades. So that is it. That is an absolute great game. My favorite part of Blockbuster is when you have to go head to head with your friends and you have to like name movies from a category. That is an absolute blast. My brother and I did that, and it's like we go for like forever. Like I think we once spent like 4 to 5 minutes just naming movies back and forth. We couldn't stop each other. It was very very fun.
I think I watched Smosh play Blockbuster.
It's a really good one.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend it. If you are playing with a lot of movie nerds, that game can go kind of long, but it is an absolute blast. So, but, yeah, I like that game a lot.
Alrighty. Yeah, and so I also have a list of games that fit into those categories. A list of games that I just remember or find fun.
Do you have a top 5 right now?
A top 5.
Do you have a rotating top 5? We can do a top 5 if you want.
Sure.
We got tons of time.
Let me think.
Give me your like. It doesn't have to be in any particular order, but if you have
the first one I can
give me one of your top 5 right now.
Ticket to Ride.
Ticket to Ride.
I love that.
Still in
game.
your top 5?
Still in my top 5.
Good game. Do you have a preference?
Preference for
Like map and stuff like that. Do you prefer like America?
I only ever played.
We're getting really into the weeds here, ladies and gentlemen. So if you are like not really into board games, we're about to get like super nerdy here. If we haven't already been like super nerdy, so
I actually only ever played the U.S. map.
Yep.
I don't have any of the other expansions, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
I just expensive money.
you should get the Europe one. It's really good.
I heard the Europe one's good, but I just haven't bought it yet.
Europe is friendlier. Sorry, Nick. Say what you're gonna say.
I played the Europe and US.
Well, which one do you like more?
I think I agree with Nate. I like Europe better.
If you were an American and you play the Ticket to Ride America, it's gonna be way easier because you'll know where all the cities are.
You think I know where all the cities are? I've been looking at the map for ages.
Right, but if you are a European, you'll probably like the Europe one better. If you are a fan of Ticket to Ride, you'll like both of them. But Europe is slightly more
Connected?
No, I want to say it's slightly more thought out because what they did is Days of Wonder, the people that created Ticket to Ride, they took all the issues with the original game that arose because it's a pretty old game and it's not perfect, right? It's very hard to make a perfect board game. Very few of them exist. They took all the problems with the original Ticket to Ride, fixed them, and then they made Europe. So, one, bigger cards, because the cards in the original Ticket to Ride, they're so small. It's terrible. Bigger cards in Ticket to Ride Europe. They fixed the whole thing where if you get blocked, if someone blocks you with like a train, blocks your route, you you're just done. You can't finish your route. You can still finish your route now with a thing called stations, so you can use other people's routes. What else did they do? They added like they made the locomotives matter more. Locomotives matter way more now. They're not just wild cards. They're actually used for like other things on the map. And I think the ticket system is just better. They fixed it. They took the tickets and balanced them a bit better. And you can play more advanced versions of both of these both of these versions of Ticket to Ride. But yeah, no, it's a classic. I still own both versions of my Ticket to Ride plus Ticket to Ride Africa. Like
Wait, they have a Ticket to Ride Africa?
They have like map packs for a bunch. The problem with Ticket to Ride and the map packs is I don't think they've been making them for a long time, so it's getting harder and harder to find them, so they get more expensive. Like Ticket to Ride Asia is like super expensive now because they haven't made it in forever, and it's probably the most popular one. But yeah, you can get Ticket to Ride Africa, Ticket to Ride France, Swedish countries, German. There's a Western one. There's a whole bunch of them that you can get. There's a bunch of different map packs. It's getting harder and harder to find them, but you can find them on eBay and on like Amazon every now and then for not like too expensive. So it's not too terrible.
Yeah. Another one that's in my top 5 is Love Letter.
Really? I hate Love Letter.
Why?
No, sorry. Come to the Love Letter tournament at Tag Monday night tomorrow. No, I hate Love Letter. Shut up.
What do you hate about Love Letter?
I don't like.
So let me ask you this, Nate. Actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
Which do you prefer more, Coup or Love Letter?
Oh, Coup, hands down.
Oh, Coup's great.
Coup 1,000 times. Too. Oh God, no way. There's not even a comparison. Coup all day. It's like asking me if I prefer Resistance versus Werewolf. I prefer like Resistance all day.
Oh, that Resistance?
Yeah, I'd rather play Resistance.
I have that game. I only played like once. That's a good game.
Again, I'm not trying to dump all over people's board game choices. There is no right or wrong choices when it comes to board games. Unless you're over the age of 10 and you're playing Candyland, then you need to. Sorry, if you like Candyland, you like.
I'm
Candyland,
sorry, but in my top 5 is Candyland.
Really?
No,
is it? No. Okay. Jeez, man, come on. Like,
I was gonna say, Omar, that's a little.
I want to copy a Candyland.
Dude, I still like make fun of my parents. I'm like, how could you let me play Candyland when Catan exists? Like, why would you do this to me? Like, sorry, but yeah, but yeah, but yeah, no, yeah. What else is in your top 5? Besides, let me explain why I hate Love Letter. I don't hate Love Letter. I just have a very dislike for it, right?
Okay.
Because when I sit down to play Love Letter, I'd rather be playing almost any other card game. Generally, right? Now, this is just my personal opinion. I don't like how slow it is. If you're playing with 8 people, I hate that I'm just sitting there.
You can't play with 8 people.
You can.
No, it goes 1 to 4 or 1 to 6 with the updated version.
No, the deluxe edition has 8 players.
Does it?
It does.
Yeah. That sounds terrible.
It's awful. So I hate it. Played it with my family last night and I hated it.
No, like we play with I have the version that's 1 to 6.
Yeah.
I like it because it had like the spies and stuff, and we typically play 3 people, and the games will end very fast.
4 players is probably fine.
Yeah.
Start adding more, it gets really tedious because you're sitting there and you only get 1 action on your turn, and your action has very, very little effect on the outcome of the game, right? The problem with a game like Love Letter is there's always going to be human choice. Mm-hmm. But if you could take a game of Love Letter, pass everyone the cards, you could then look at all the cards that are going to be preceded, and you could probably figure out who's going to win by who draws what, right? Percentage-wise. Yeah, there are cards that make people switch and cards that make people get eliminated and cards that do other things, but in the long run, it's almost like decided every time who's going to win. Again, not trying to... People love Love Letter, and the decisions behind Love Letter are fun, but personally me, I don't like the idea of looking at a card, because whenever I play Love Letter, all I'm doing is thinking about like who has what number and like how many of this number are out there, how many 2s are out there, how many 1s are out there, what number should I, The best part about Love Letter is when, if anyone knows how to play this game, is when you play a 1 and you look at somebody and you just blind read them, you say 8, and they get really upset, and then they put down the 8. You blind read them with an 8. I've done it once to my sister-in-law, and it's hilarious.
I've done that to Omar with the princess a few times.
Yeah,
it's
you just
terrible.
Be like 8, and then just like you just see the look of distraught on their face when they put down the 8, and they put down the princess.
Well, we don't actually use numbers. We just say, "Do you have the princess?" Or
yeah. I guess if you were playing with someone that was like newer though, you would say like, "Do you have this number in your hand?" or whatever. So
Yeah, but I would
yeah.
just say like all the card names because it's really fun to say the card
well,
names.
but yeah, if you're playing with the deluxe edition, there's multiple names on different numbers. That's
Yeah.
fine. So
Yeah, and going off your point of like having like the despair of like seeing people when you say like, do you have this number?
do you have the 8? Crap. Let me put it down. Like, gotcha.
You gotta think of it this way too. The person that guesses it right doesn't have the same feeling of the person who has to put it down.
So another game that I do like a lot is Pandemic. Do you hate that one too?
Kinda. Yeah.
Why?
Okay. Again, I'm not. This is funny because this is turning into like I hate half of Omar's list here. No. I'm not a big. I don't like cooperative games that much.
You don't like to be part of a team?
It's not that I don't like being part of a team, because I actually like team games, right? Where it's team versus team. And that's a competitive game. I just
Like
prefer.
Secret Hitler.
Yeah, like Secret Hitler. I just prefer competitive games, right? So I have played a lot of co-op games. Not a lot, but I played enough. And I love some of them, and I dislike a lot of them. I dislike Pandemic, but I love Mysterium, right? But Mysterium is sort of like one person is sort of the moderator. The rest of the players are on a team, but they're making their own decisions. There is sort of a competitive aspect to see who gets the most points at the end of Mysterium in a weird way, like who does the best. But it's sort of like you versus the game, I guess.
Pandemic? Yeah, Pandemic is you versus the game.
Right, and it is. But the only difference is there's no moderator. But I just don't like the way Pandemic is built, because because you can meta it, right? If you've never, you can break it in a way, because you know that in Pandemic it's like, okay, this is the biggest problem with co-op games, is that sometimes it will devolve into one person making all the decisions, and I'm not gonna lie, that person sometimes is me. But games like that can devolve into one person making all the decisions. Who's the most experienced player with this game right now? If you're playing Pandemic, and it's like, who's the most experienced player? And the new player is like, what do I do? And you don't know what to do. And then the player who's the most experienced tells them what to do. Like, that kind of feels not super great. When it's sort of like a discussion between everyone, that's pretty good. But I think there are just better co-op games out there. Like, this is just original Pandemic. Okay, I think Pandemic Legacy, great game. Great game. Pandemic Legacy Season 1, Season 2, and Season 0, all really good. There's a reason why Pandemic Legacy Season 1 is number 2 on Board Game Geek. Like, it's been number 2 forever, and it hasn't been, like, removed, right? Only Gloomhaven is considered, like, a better game. Do I agree with that? Maybe not. You know what I mean? Do I think Twilight Imperium should probably be number 2? Probably, but it's kind of weighty. It's kind of a heavy game, like, both physically and mentally. But I understand why people like Pandemic. However, again, I'm saying but and however a lot here. There's just better co-op games. Because it's so old. It's nothing against Pandemic. It's just older now, right? It's like 15 years old or something like that. 10 years old, maybe. My brother loves Flashpoint. My brother has a cooperative game called Flashpoint where you play as firefighters and you're trying to, like, put out fires.
Oh, I heard of that.
It's so good. Like, you play Pandemic and then you play Flashpoint, because it's a very similar system where there is, like, a growing pressure. So in Pandemic, it's disease, right?
And Flashpoint's fire.
In Flashpoint, it's fire. And you can sometimes get really, really unlucky where the disease will just spread in Pandemic or the fire will just spread in Flashpoint. However, for some reason, stopping the fire in Flashpoint and literally seeing the fire, like, get smaller is way more satisfying than, like, just seeing the cubes of disease get smaller in Pandemic. And I've played both, and I've played them a lot.
And also, maybe people have a better time doing Flashpoint because they kind of understand fire more than diseases.
Yeah, there's also
I feel like especially with games like Pandemic and Flashpoint, if you're playing with people that maybe have only played once and still necessarily don't understand it, it makes that exchange just so much slower.
You need to be louder.
Yeah, you can speak up a little if you want to, or just you just pull the mic closer to you. There you go. No, totally agree. So, like, and it might also have to do with the fact that, like, Pandemic is on a global scale, so you might feel like a little disconnected to, like, what's happening. And Flashpoint, just comparing these two games, Flashpoint is on, like, a much more, like, personal scale where you're literally putting out a fire inside of a building and trying to rescue people. So maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah,
but again, Flashpoint's a newer game. It was a Kickstarter game. It was heavily developed and, like, tested a lot, which, I'm not saying Pandemic wasn't.
Yeah.
but there was a lot of work put into it, and it feels balanced enough that individual like choices matter, but there isn't really a person that's like has to be in charge of Flashpoint. All decisions matter in Flashpoint, but I've noticed in Flashpoint less someone taking over the game versus in Pandemic someone taking over the game.
So
Yeah,
I'm not trying to just like every game Omar brings up. Oh, that's terrible. But no. So
I'm gonna get through the rest of my list because we do have to
Yeah,
take
you
a
hit me.
music
What do you
break
got?
very soon.
yeah, what you got?
So the next one I'm gonna cite is Secret Hitler.
Okay.
Like that game? Like
Yep.
it?
Good.
And another one is Chrononauts,
Chrononauts.
made by Looney Labs.
Chrononauts. I should have heard of this game.
The other
It's
game
a
that
card
I've
game.
played
It's a
that I
timeline game where
really
you're a
kind
time
of didn't
traveler,
understand.
And you gotta alternate the timeline to get back to your original timeline or complete your mission.
Was this the game like we played, like the Back to the Future version?
I'm looking up.
Oh,
on my
no.
phone.
But Back to the Future.
Oh, it's a card game.
Yeah,
Oh, it's a bit okay. Is this older? When is this?
very
game?
old.
Yeah, this looks pretty old.
It's very old.
Oh,
Actually,
that's dope.
I was actually looking at Looney Labs list of games they made because they have you heard of Flux?
Yeah, Flux.
Yeah, they made Flux.
Oh, okay. So guys made. Okay, so it's
Yeah,
a
and-
card game. It's a like the rules change, crazy things happen kind of card game.
Not that version. No, this is not Flux. It's basically you have a timeline of cards. It starts in like 18 something. It ends in 1999
Mm-hmm.
with key events in history.
Competitive or co-op?
Competitive.
Okay.
Purely competitive.
Gotcha.
You have an identity card and you have a mission card. The identity card gives you 3 or 4 cards that you need to get to a certain timeline.
Yep.
If you get the timeline by the start of your turn, you get that timeline to be matches that. You win the game because you have gone home to your original timeline. The mission
kinda cool.
card, you gotta collect artifacts. If you collect all artifacts and you have them by the beginning of your turn, you win because of research.
I gotcha.
And basically, as you flip things, you can create paradoxes. Then you gotta patch those paradoxes, and that's basically
Funny.
what it
It
is.
reminds me of a game called Timeline. Like there's an actual game.
I think there is a game called Timeline.
There is a game called Timeline.
Is that the
It's-
one where I had to print everything out manually because they didn't produce it, but they had like all the free version of it?
They have. They've made Timeline is like a game, like a 1v1 competitive game. Well, actually, you can play with multiple people, but you're trying to put like events into like you have like one event and it's a year, and then you're trying to. Everyone has like their own collection of events, but you don't see what the dates are on them. So you're trying to fit them into the timeline as best you can, and if you fit them in, like you eliminate cards from your hand. The first person to have 0 cards is the winner. My best friend and I play it like 1v1 all the time, and he crushes me. He doesn't crush me, but he consistently beats me by like 1 card because I'll get like the invention of shampoo, and he'll have like first black president, and it's like, come on, really? Like,
That's
you know what I
unfair.
mean?
Everyone
Like,
knows that.
2008. What the hell? What the heck? Excuse me. What the heck? Excuse me. Pardon me. But it's just absolutely.
So
But,
now the
yeah.
reason why Chrononauts is great because I was looking at some of the other games
Yep.
like the Flux. I skipped past all of Flux, so I know what Flux is, and I think you guys have a couple copies.
I've played Flux.
Yeah.
I've played it.
But-
Flux is, if anyone doesn't know out there, Flux is a card game that there are certain cards in the game that change the rules as the game is going, and those get automatically put into play, or like players put them into play, and you're trying to assemble collections of cards. So like if you are playing the basic game of Flux, if you get the milk card and the cookie card, you win the game. And if you're playing like the Marvel version of Flux, if you get Captain America and
his shield or
and
whatever.
and his shield, or Captain America and Iron Man into play, you win, or something like that. You know what I mean?
It-
Stuff like that.
Yeah, so they made a game that I literally just bought a copy of yesterday as I was looking this up. It is called Are You the Traitor? Now, the reason I bought it because it reminded me a lot like Secret Hitler, except more fast-paced. Basically, there's a good wizard, an evil wizard, a key holder, a guard, and I think a couple other things.
Sorry, I just looked up subterfuge. So Omar's talking about a subterfuge game. Deceit used in order to achieve one's goals. That is what I meant earlier. There is an entire classification of games called subterfuge games, which Omar is now talking about. Talking about Secret Hitler, Werewolf. What was the one I just mentioned? Resistance, Avalon, etc. So what he's talking about right now is a subterfuge game.
Yeah,
But-
so I'm pretty sure the wizards know who each other are. The key holder knows who. I want to say the wizards, but don't quote me on that. Maybe the god, and the god knows one of them too. But I don't know. I did a brief description like that looks fun. I want to try it, so I bought it.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's
I'll let you know when I get it. But I will have to pause here as we're gonna have a music break.
Alright, sweet.
This theme of music is gonna be It's gonna be Love Songs because
When-
Valentine's Day is coming up, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's tomorrow, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
When we come back, we're gonna have to hear Nick's top 10, not top 5.
We will have to hear Nick's top 5.
All right, cool.
Alrighty, I'll see you after the break. Hello and welcome back to the show. Now we're gonna have Nick give the top 5 board games that he likes.
Yeah, so we just heard Omar's top 5, and before I get into like what is my rough top 5, I want to hear Nick's experience with board games and stuff like that, and what are you currently loving and playing right now?
So growing up, I wasn't really introduced to a lot of the games that we have been talking about. I really wasn't introduced to a lot of these until late high school, early college.
No, me too, man. I didn't start playing like advanced stuff till I was like 20.
So for my top, definitely one of them is Secret Hitler, which we already talked about.
Yep. It's a good subterfuge. Like I said, personally, I'm a fan of Resistance when it comes to like subterfuge games. I'm actually really excited for Blood on the Clock Tower this year. That's supposed to come out like last year, and I'm still waiting on it. It's essentially just like
I haven't heard of that game before.
It's essentially just a really advanced werewolf, but you have to play with a moderator. So you have to have like a quote unquote dungeon master, book master / mod. What's up?
I had a question for you, actually.
Yeah.
What was the game we played that night when we did the collab event? Where you were the...
Mysterium. That's Mysterium.
Okay.
That's Mysterium. We were kind of talking about. So I love games with moderators in them. Generally, I'm the moderator. And when I say moderator, if anyone knows what Dungeons and Dragons is, it's sort of like the Dungeon Master. It's a game that requires someone to facilitate a game.
Hey, Nick, what was that card game we played with George over the summer? Remember the one where we dealt out the 5 cards? It was like a town, kind of like, it was Mafia.
Mafia, yeah, that's another very similar subterfuge.
Yeah, and it has a moderator. Well, at least we play with a moderator.
Yeah, you have.
And it
to,
was great because like
not all of them do, but ultimate collector edition big box werewolf, I think also has like a moderator that came out like a year or 2 ago.
It was
but,
great.
With my
The
family
moderator adds
specifically, we do a
story.
lot of card games.
Yeah.
So like coming in over the summer, like I taught George, Omar, all like games like Egyptian Rat Screw, Presidents.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Presidents was really fun, but that doesn't have a moderator in it.
There's a really good game called Regicide that was just like you ever play that? That's a really good one. Regicide's great because you can literally play it with just a deck of cards, but it was like a Kickstarter game with
What's
the rules.
Regicide?
So it's I'm gonna get the rules totally wrong, but you can just look it up online. So someone created a Kickstarter for Regicide, which was like a bunch of like the rules plus like a custom deck of cards, but you can play it with a regular deck of cards. Essentially, what it is you take a 52 deck of cards, and you remove the jacks, the kings, and the queens, and you put them to the side. So you take out 12 cards of the deck, you put them to the side, you have now a 40-card deck. Everyone gets dealt a certain amount of cards, and then you have to use those cards to fight against the jacks, kings, and queens, who are like the bosses of the deck. And you're essentially just trying to add up your cards to equal the number that a jack or a king or a queen would be, so 11, 12, or 13. And all of like the suits do different special powers and things like that. It's a really good game. Look it up online. I don't remember who created it, but it's a really, really clever twist on a 52 card deck. Maybe 54. I don't know if you use the jokers or not in Regicide, but at least it's definitely worth looking into. So
Yeah, but I will say that having a moderator for some games does really help a lot. A lot of the time, the moderator will add a story into it, which really helps like get you immersed into the game. You know?
Not every game needs a moderator. Like I sometimes am playing the moderator even in games that doesn't require one, just because like other people don't know how to play. So you're kind of reminding people what to like. Hey, it's your turn, or you can do this, or what do you think about this, or whatever.
I do that too.
But other games that are like do require moderators, like Mysterium. If you're playing Mysterium, you are the ghost. If you are playing Treasure Island, which is one of my favorites cooperative / competitive games, if anyone's never played that, it's really, really good. The moderator is playing Long John Silver, who is like knows where the treasure is and nobody else knows where it is. Blood on the Clock Tower has like a story keeper who is going to be the person in charge of like all like the rules and like what's happening like in the day and the night, and like demons trying to fight humans and things like that. It's essentially just like more advanced.
Do they
werewolf.
know when that's getting released?
That sounds fun though.
It's supposed to come out this year at some point.
Eventually.
Eventually. Again, it got delayed because of COVID and Kickstarter. I've had it pre-ordered for like almost 2 years now, but it should be really good. I have no qualm with them taking their time on that game because it requires a lot of testing. Estimated delivery is April, May of this year.
Yeah.
If that even happens.
Everything keeps getting so delayed. Also, we never finished Nick's top 5.
Yeah, no, I know. We kind of got sidetracked there. So so give us a little bit more history, Nick, of like what you like.
Come on.
So like I come from a family who's very competitive, so it's more my top 5
Me
are
too.
more in games that are involving like more than just like 2 people, like 2 to 4 people.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of popular games that I've played growing up were Monopoly, Scrabble, Trivial Pursuit.
Mm-hmm.
So basically all not necessarily like really knowledgeable games.
Scrabble's a good
but
one. If you want to talk about Parker Brothers and Hasbro games, Scrabble's a really
I don't
good
like
school.
Scrabble.
Yeah.
I can't spell.
I'm not a okay. Yeah,
know,
totally
Omar.
like that. I'm not a big fan of Scrabble, but Scrabble is this really interesting game where there is it's all skill. There is no luck in Scrabble.
No,
The
it's
only
all
luck,
skill.
Sorry, that's a lie. The luck in Scrabble is in the
Luck of
tiles
fit-
you're dealt. But so, if you have 2 people who are of equal skill in Scrabble, yes, one of them might do, like, if one of them has better tiles, they're probably going to win.
it's
But
basically the luck of what you pull.
yeah, but it still requires, like, that is the only luck in that game, is what you pull out of the bag. Otherwise,
Because
it's
like
just...
the interesting thing about Scrabble too is especially like you per se, like if you have 2 equal players that are like fairly close in score, it always just comes down to the end when you have to get rid of the letters, and whatever you can't get rid
Well,
of
again,
gets
that's the
taken
other
from
good
you.
thing about it is prioritizing, trying to think of what your opponent might play, what they might play off of your words, and prioritizing keeping your better letters versus your crappy letters and stuff like
Because
that.
I feel like if you keep like a Z or a Q that's like worth 10 until the end, you're
Yeah,
gonna
you can
get
try and get, like,
you're
a
gonna
T.
get basically
Isn't there like
Squeeze in a
Yeah.
QI like in there.
isn't there like a double space and like double points, triple points on the board
double,
somewhere?
double,
double
word,
word
double,
and
double letter,
it's-
stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, double word, double letter, and then triple letter and triple word.
You know what's funny is you mentioned Monopoly. I hate Monopoly.
Oh, I know.
I hate Monopoly.
Oh, I just like
I
it
heard you
too.
mention that
I
earlier.
used to love the
I'm not-
game so
not
much.
I'm trying to say I hate all board games. It's really sounding like
It sounds like you hate
board games.
every board game.
No,
ever.
I don't hate every board game.
Are you
I-
sure about that?
Monopoly specifically. The problem with Monopoly.
Well,
and
like
again,
Monopoly.
It's
was the
unfair because
game
when
that I
someone
was
gets
first
It's not
intro-
unfair. It's the problem with Monopoly is
No.
it wasn't supposed to be a real board game.
I know it
Yeah.
wasn't.
Monopoly was made in 1904. It was made by I forget who she was. But
It was
she-
like
I believe-
Elizabeth
something like that. I think she was an economist. I think she was an economist.
Yeah, because she did it to like make.
it was a teaching tool. It was
yeah,
supposed
she
to be a
did
teaching
it
tool.
to make it like for people to like learn how to like basically.
Avoid what it is.
Yeah.
So it was originally called the Landlord's Game, and she made it to showcase the problem with monopolies. The problem with somebody maintaining the power over a certain collection of an industry, essentially. And I don't think she was anti-capitalism, or I don't think she was anti-capitalism. Or maybe she was. I don't remember. What was her name?
Lizzie, Maggie.
Yeah. So the problem is she made it as a joke, as like a cautionary tool, and then people played it and they liked it, and then it was bought out and there was a whole bunch of problems with it. But then it was literally turned into what you play nowadays. The problem with Monopoly is the fact that, again, I'm not trying to like ruin Monopoly for people, but if you understand how dice rolling works, you can hedge your bets in Monopoly to always win.
I know.
You always roll 2 dice, and the most
Isn't it 7 on average?
7, always. 7 is the most commonly rolled number. 6, 7, 8 will always be your most commonly rolled numbers, with 7 being the most. You have a 30 when you roll, again, not trying to be a super huge nerd here, but I do play a lot of games. When you roll 2 dice, you have a 1 in 36 chance of getting a specific number, right? And certain numbers have a higher chance than others. Rolling a 2, you only have a 1 in 36 chance of getting it, because you can only roll a 1 and a 1 to get a 2. Rolling a 12, same thing. 1 in 36 chance, 6 and 6. A 7 is the number that is directly
Well,
the
wouldn't
most.
there be more than just 1 in 36 chance? Oh wait, never mind. I lied.
Yeah, 6 squared, 36 different
Because I was
combinations.
thinking
Yeah,
like
because
7.
7
I
you can
was
do
just
1
like
and
all of a
6,
sudden.
2 and 5,
Yeah.
3 and 4.
Exactly. There
No,
are
because
multiple.
I was just starting to think 7 and 5 for a second. I'm like, wait, there's no 7th side.
It's why if you look at a die, if you look at a regular dice and you look how it's laid out, the opposite sides of every dice will always add up to 7.
Yeah.
1 and 6 are opposite from each other. They add up. 2 and 5 are opposite from each other.
then
They
3
add
and
to
4.
7. 3 and 4 opposite. So a 7 will always be your most consistent with a number. If you understand this, and you understand that you can work outwards from that, with 7 being the best, 6 and 8 next, 5 and 10 after that, you can pinpoint where the 7s are on a Monopoly board, like where you will roll a 7 most likely, And you can work out from that as to what spaces you should acquire. So again, I haven't looked at Monopoly board in a while, so pardon me if I get this wrong.
It's basically a 10
I think
by
the first
10.
one is chance. I think 7 spaces away from go
Is chance.
I
yes.
want to say
Community
you're
chest-
correct.
I think
No,
it's community chance or
It
chess.
is it
I'm
is
gonna look
chance
this up.
because the
Right.
community chest falls in between the browns.
Right. So you can then work out from that. If you want to pull up a Monopoly board, let me know if I'm wrong. From that, the light blues will be your first best purchase, I believe.
Yeah,
Which
It
if
goes-
that's the first one.
'cause
After
it-
that, the most landed on space in Monopoly is actually jail.
Yeah, because everyone goes to jail.
Well,
Yeah.
not just everyone, but there are a lot of ways to land on chance and a lot of ways to reset yourself back to jail. Like not free parking. Literally the thing that says go to jail and jumps you back, right?
Yeah.
So if you know that jail is the most landed on spot, what's the next most landed on spot? It's 7 spaces away from jail, which
Community
I
chest.
believe is a community chest inside of the pink or orange?
Orange.
Orange,
So
'cause inside
orange
the-
now becomes
Inside
your-
the pink is electric.
yeah, so orange now becomes your best color to purchase on the board. After that, 7 spaces away from orange is your next best color. So the corner of the board that is best to own is around free parking. Is it free parking? I think
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah,
So,
'cause
again,
it's-
trying to ruin Monopoly.
Because in corners it's go.
Yeah.
Just visiting
Yeah.
with jail.
So
free
you
parking,
have a lot of
then
people
go
that are
to
like, oh,
jail.
I want this color, and people have their ideas. But Monopoly is not designed to be like a 5-hour long board game. That game should take like an hour, 2 hours tops. If you're playing
It's a line table.
If you're playing correctly, that game should take like an hour, 2 hours tops. Because
Yeah.
there's like an actual right way to play Monopoly that requires you to
Because
like.
I feel like with Monopoly specifically, especially, people are just like, okay, blue's most expensive. That's what I'm going
Yeah,
for.
they immediately go for it. But the chance of you landing on blue is astronomically thin.
Do you know
Like-
what's actually really funny though? I was working on a Wentworth Monopoly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I never fully finished it. Most of it was done. Just the 3D pieces were never made.
The problem is it's one of those games that you can just buy. Like Monopoly,
'Cause the thing-
Monopoly, the people that own Monopoly can just get rights to almost anything they want, just because it's very easy and nobody else owns their version of the game.
And it's
so,
also very easy to make anything into Monopoly.
Like,
yeah,
the
pretty
thing with
much.
Monopoly too is like most people are like, okay, I have a higher chance of getting like both blues because there's one less, and also there's a card that says go to board one.
I think
but
it's cooler when
like-
people I think it's cool. Like Clue is another one that suffers from this when you make a version of Clue. I actually don't think there's any version of Clue that's better than Clue Master Detective. Like Clue Game of Thrones, Clue Bob's Burgers, Clue
I never
anything.
played
Clue
Clue
Simpsons.
Master-
Nothing is better than Clue Master Detective.
I never played Clue Master Detective.
It's really good.
I have, and I actually agree with that.
It's literally just bigger. It's just like a bigger map. It's a bigger map, more weapons, more people. It comes with like it's much easier to alternate the rules to make. It's much easier to change the rules to make the game more fair for everyone. Like there's again, not trying to get too into the weeds here of like how people change board games, and I'm not always saying you should change the rules of a game for yourself, but there's like a collective rule online called like the Butler rule in Clue where people change the rules to like move stuff around, and there's like a way online to like play with weapons, like weapons matter in Clue, because the weapons actually don't do anything in Clue, so there is a way to play with like weapons matter and stuff like that. But yeah, so it's a good game. I love Clue personally. I will play just basic Clue any day.
Did we ever finish Nick's top 5?
No, we're still going through it. So
Okay,
Nick,
let's go.
hit us up here. Let's keep it going here.
So for other games that are like legit board games, is Risk. But then besides Risk, I grew up with mostly more or less tabletop like
Card games.
card games in a sense. So for those, definitely on my top would be Egyptian Rat Screw, Mafia, Scat.
How many people do we need to play Mafia?
5.
Five?
Probably 4 or 5, I'm assuming.
Well,
don't-
because there's 4 positions.
What's the 4 positions?
Because it's the detective, the doctor, the killer, and then I think after that it's just I think after that you have
Just
to have at least
bystanders,
one,
right?
Yeah, it's the villagers, and
Oh,
you
okay.
need to have one moderator. So yeah, I think it's a minimum of 5.
Okay. Just curious. Thank you.
Yeah, I haven't
Minimum
played.
of 4, I think. Then because you need it's a minimum of 5 because I think you need at least one villager.
Yeah, you need at least one visual to make the game actually work, right? Yeah, so the reason why I got the Are You the Trader, because it sounded a lot like Mafia and it sounds really fun. But with that, so Monopoly I don't really like too much. I used to like a lot when I was growing up, but then I played it too much because that's the only
Yeah,
board
same
game
here.
my older brother will ever play is Monopoly.
Really?
Mostly because he always wins at it.
Yeah, that's
That's
why.
the-
To be honest, that's why I liked Monopoly growing up too. Cause like,
Oh, I never won.
Everyone either gave up on me or literally like was just like, okay, I'm going bankrupt, so we can end this.
Me personally, was Life. Like, I loved Life.
Oh my God, I loved
Granted,
the
I
game
didn't
of Life.
understand what was happening. I just liked the idea of like advancing through a thing.
I feel like with the
getting a
game of
house.
life
I don't know.
specifically, you have to be, I'd say at least, probably 10 or over to actually fully somewhat understand it.
Funny enough, if I
Game of Life to explain how to. Oh, I can't say that joke.
you know, funny enough, so my best friend and I, we have talked. Actually, my best friend and my brother, I've had this conversation multiple times. There are companies out there that take like not very good games, again, like Monopoly,
And make them better.
or they take the idea of them and they make them better, right? So if you're a fan of Monopoly, and again, we're harping on Monopoly a lot here, but if you're a fan of Monopoly, there are games out there very similar to Monopoly.
Like
that-
Take a Divide.
No,
Yes.
no. I'm talking.
I would argue this
I'm
is
talking about no. So I'm talking like if you like the idea of the economy of Monopoly. So you like the idea that there's an economy, right? So an economy-based game, and again, we'll just talk about whatever here. So Monopoly is an economy-based game, right? There is an economy inside of the game that is functioning. There is a system inside of the game that is moving money around and giving players money and taking money away from other players. There are games like that simulate this idea, the same kind of concept, but they are way, way better. So Chinatown by Z-Man Games is like what Monopoly should have been. It is fantastic. It is literally just like, okay, here's some random spots, here's some random business tiles. Now trade, go. And it's an open trade negotiation game, and at the end of the game, whoever has the most money is the winner, right?
That sounds fun.
It's fantastic. I bought it for my mom. I bought it for my girlfriend's family. They absolutely all love it. It's Z-Man Games, Chinatown. Look it up. Great game. Another one that just came out, Brick and Mortar, which is like a game.
Oh, I actually have heard about that.
Oh, it's so fun. It takes forever to play, but it's so fun. You have like you're opening businesses and buying and trading goods to a market, and the price of those goods actually fluctuates because of the players and how much goods and how much players are willing to pay for those goods and the combinations.
Like a real economy.
Yeah, literally.
I'm
So-
actually taking microeconomics right now. So
Yeah,
like
you
supply and
would
demand
love
and
these
stuff.
games. They're like look at Chinatown and Brick and Mortar. You would love these games versus Monopoly because Monopoly is very luck based. These games, there's luck involved, but the luck is only sort of like putting you into position on the board, and then it's your job to like fight and scrap your way out of that position in order to like succeed. Literally like capitalism.
Yeah.
So it is Brick and Mortar and Chinatown. If you're looking for alternates to Monopoly, play those. Also, Food Chain Magnet, but I think it's almost impossible to find that game nowadays because it's like sold out and it's like limited run, so that one's kind of hard. But Monopoly and Brick and Mortar, very, very,
You
very.
know what this
very
reminds me of? I bought a game called Investitures.
good. Investitures.
I can't pronounce it too well.
Yeah.
But basically, it's you start off with some money, and there's a stock market of companies.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of.
You
economy
play
games.
cards
Yeah.
to affect the stock market, and you place your bets on
Yeah,
different stocks,
okay.
and you gotta get the most money.
Yeah, there's a game called like Fine Art. I think it's like Fine Art that does this too.
Yeah, but so basically, you have cards that will either raise or lower the stock price
Yeah.
of a thing, and you play it at the end once everyone places
Yeah.
their bets.
Okay, that's cool.
Now here's the thing: I was
I like
playing
that.
with my brother, right?
Yeah.
And instead of playing the game legitimately, actually like playing with the stock market, we started to collude it and see what we had, and then just to make the most money possible. Inside trading
Yeah, I
for
get
the
you.
win.
That's funny. Yeah, no, I love games like that. I love these economy-based games that like allow you to take control over like what you're doing inside of the game and trying to like create the best. I don't know. I think that's a very fun concept inside of a game. And like there's other games like Brass Birmingham. If anyone knows what Brass Birmingham is or Brass in general, that's another really great economy game that it was made like a long time ago. Like the original Brass was made like back in the 90s, and then Brass Birmingham is like the updated version. It's really, really good.
Have you ever made a game?
So I was actually circumventing to that. My brother is actually trying to make a game.
I'm also trying to make a game.
I don't want to give a. It's probably not too many people listening, but I don't want to give away my
0 people listening.
Is it right now, right? But if anyone listens to this on YouTube, I don't want to give them my thesis idea. But I actually have a really good thesis idea for architecture and board games. There was a student, I don't remember her name, 1 or 2 years ago here that was doing her thesis, and she was doing it on board games and architecture, and she was doing it in like a kind of a weird social way. She was talking about how design affects social people and how, or something like that. I don't remember. I'm so sorry if she ever listens to this and hears that. But there was like something about how people affect design or something like that. I want to do a thesis where I create a board game that is allowing people to sort of like design a building. And there is a game like this. There's a game called Floor Plan, which I don't think is actually a very good game. It's a roll and write. It has like some problems with it. I actually want to take the idea of like a roll and write style of game and turn it into a game that actually like lets people think about design and rewards people for thinking about design. Again, I have not worked this out. This is just one of my thesis ideas, but I think it could be really fun.
Yeah.
So that's been floating around in my head all the time. My brother's been trying to develop a game for a long time, funny enough, called Tag. He wants to build a game about the idea of kids playing on a street. It's like street corners and like back in the day in like a neighborhood, like tagging each other. He's been working on that for a while. If I could go back and redesign any game, and this goes back to what I was talking about, where people have taken the idea of Monopoly and like made economy-based games. People have taken the idea of Clue and made subterfuge and deduction games. If I could take any game and turn it into like a different game, I would turn Life into like a different game. I would want to, if I could make any game, I would take the concept of the game of Life and turn it into something else. That is what I would do. I would turn it into like a really strategic game where you're making multiple decisions over the course of like a character's lifetime and earning money. And I don't know how I would do it. It would probably be too insane, but yeah, that would be my dream idea. So. Yeah, you're fine. Okay. So what, Nick? What were you gonna say? Oh, okay, I got you.
So yeah. So for card games, have you played any that I had mentioned?
A few probably. I've played like.
Do you want me to repeat them?
Yeah, repeat them for me. What were they again?
President, Egyptian Rat Screw, Mafia, Scat.
Presidents is fun.
I played Mafia a long time ago.
Mafia's fun.
I played
Egyptian Rat Screw has different names, so you might have played that under a different name.
I played when I was in the military, I used to play a lot of card games overseas because that's all we had. Mm-hmm. And I played what was the game we played a lot?
Spit?
No, not Spit.
Spoons?
We played BS a lot.
Well, BS is great. So
I played that a lot, and then we played Rummy. It was Rummy. Played Rummy a lot.
Is it Rummy or is it Rum? Because I always pronounce it.
It's
Rummy. I always pronounce it.
We were trying to assemble like duplicates of cards and things like that.
Yeah,
and put them in a
I always called it Rum.
Played that a lot.
Rummy. Have you? Now, did you play where you can knock early if you have less than 10 deadwood?
I don't remember. I don't remember how we did it, but like that was gosh. The last time that happened was like 2016 was the last time I was overseas. No, 2016 was the last time I was overseas and was playing games because I wasn't doing my other job, but yeah.
Do you know what's actually really cool? You can actually tell where a game originates from based on how they describe things in their rule set. Like for instance, a lot of Egyptian card games, they will always describe the cards as paper or points, you know, to count your paper.
Yeah.
And so I just found it cool. There's a card game I used to play with my dad named Baccarat.
Yeah.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, I haven't played that in a while, but it was really fun and we did pretty good. I don't remember a lot of the rules anymore because it's been ages, but you know, it was really, really, really fun. So, no, but I am actually working on a card game. What I mean working on it, I mean, I'm on my second prototype because my first prototype lasted about 5 minutes into a game. Like, it went 5 minutes, turns out, wow, there's some huge flaws. I had to redesign a good chunk of it, but I think it works now. I wanted it to be very simple, very fast paced. So basically, it's competitive. Mm-hmm. You and your friends have crash landed on a planet that has been inhabited by aliens, and they're hunting you down. You got to build a rocket ship to get off the alien first, because you know when you launch a rocket, it acts kind of like a beacon and guides the aliens right to where you guys are, and they will kill you. And basically, the way it works is that there's a market where you can buy cards and stuff, and you can also buy buy shop parts. So I might scrap the scavenge part. I haven't decided yet.
Yeah, it's tough with certain games because like generally less is more with games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like sometimes you can play something that is like super, super intense and like it works really well. You know what I mean? So I think it's tough because you got to try and find that sort of happy medium between creating something that's really, really complex and something that's like simple enough that anyone can grasp it, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of like what are you trying to get out of your game? You know, I think that's more the important thing. So
I actually had a question that can be answered by both of you.
Pizza.
Okay.
What is it, Nick?
So today we see a lot of gaming companies come out with different games that basically are a repeat of basically are a copy of another game. What is your opinion with this?
It depends, right?
For example, like Cards
Give me-
Against Humanity.
Yeah, give me an example.
Cards Against Humanity. What do you mean? And then like overrated.
Oh,
are all the
I
same,
hate what
but
you
are
mean. I
basically
hate
all
most
the
of
same thing,
those.
you're
Okay,
just
so-
using different things to judge.
Right. So this is a really weird thing about like board games and legal issues. So you cannot. I don't think you can own. And again, I might be wrong, but I'm almost positive you can not own the mechanics of a game, right? Of any game. I believe it's not copyrightable for the most part. What you can own is names. You can own the name of something. You can copyright the name of something in board games. So nobody can use the name Monopoly. Nobody can use the Game of Life. Nobody can use the name of Chinatown. Nobody can use the name Risk, right? Those are protected by whatever company owns that game. But you can't, if you own Monopoly, for example, you cannot own the idea of rolling dice, moving along a board, and like buying things along the board. You can't own that, right? Anybody can use that idea, but you can own the way the game looks. You can own the artwork of the game. You can own all of that, right? So I don't particularly have a huge problem with somebody duplicating a mechanic in a game because, like, I think you get really good games because of that, because someone will take a mechanic that somebody thought of in a game and they'll change it and they'll make it better. So, like, for example, I actually think Cards Against Humanity isn't a very good game. I think it's a great game to play with, like, 12 people who are drunk and just, like, sitting in a room and having fun. Or really good for, like...
Yeah, because you always get the most...
Right. You get the
answers.
dumb, stupid stuff, right? But just from an actual, like, gameplay, it's really not that, like... It's just picking cards, right?
Yeah, it's not that strategic.
Right. So comparing that to any other version of a party game that requires putting a card A and card B together to make something funny, like, fine. You know, that's just what's popular. You know what I mean? It's what's going to sell. I can't really think too much off of, like, if I've ever played a game that blatantly ripped off another game. Because generally, if you're blatantly ripping off another game, you're ripping that game off because they did a good job. And they probably did a better job at theming the game than you did. And that's usually what sells games, is themes, right? So you're going to play a game because it has, like, if you like pirates, you're going to go play a pirate-themed game, you know, versus, like, playing a game themed around, like, I don't know, knights or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so you're gonna play something like that. And generally, if you own the theme of your game, or you own, like, the idea behind, like, the theming of your game, then, you know, no one's gonna be able to take that from you. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but I don't know. I don't play too many games that are like what you're describing, like the
Like
duplicates
repeats of each other?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, I do like party games, but I have, like, a very specific set of party games that I really, really like. Sort of the best of the best, in my opinion, you know?
Yeah.
But, like, for example, my favorite game, like my favorite Cards Against Humanity style game is Try White Trolley, made by the people that did Cyanide and Happiness. That game's hilarious.
I know, it really is.
Because it presents you with only two choices, and they are moral dilemma choices. I think it's much easier for one person to look at two things and decide between the two of them versus looking at, like, 7 cards presented to them in Cards Against Humanity. I think it's way more fun if you're presented with a moral dilemma that says choose A or choose B versus, like, presented with, like, which of these is the funniest, choose 1 through, you know, choose A, B, C, D, E, or F.
Yeah. So, unfortunately for that, we do have to go into a second music break.
That's fine.
But coming back, we'll have more talk about tabletop games. All right, and welcome back to the final segment of our show. Nick, what were we going to talk about?
So I think one we're going to talk about, like,
role-playing card games.
Role-playing games?
Yeah, that's the one.
So I think role-playing games actually is the reason why, it's probably the big reason why gaming has exploded in the last, like, 10 years, 15 years, because, like, D&D Dungeons & Dragons has become more popular than ever, right? I think Dungeons & Dragons is more popular than just, like, board games in general, like, probably now, because it's so easily accessible to
I'd agree
anyone.
with that. And also, it's like, there's not, I wouldn't say there's no rules, but in a sense, it's like you almost create your game as you go.
You get to create your own. There are rules, And some people follow those letters to an absolute T.
Yeah, but you can also homebrew it too.
Yeah, I was going to say, other people amend those rules.
That's why I was saying, like, I didn't. Well, that's why I was saying it's not like it's no rules.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's almost like, in a sense, like you almost kind of forget there are.
It's your game. That's what it is.
It's almost like
Yeah.
you're forgetting there are rules.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're creating an adventure as
Right.
you continue.
The important thing to do as like the most important thing as a player is to not think about the rules, but is to think about the world that you're in. The dungeon master is the one who's thinking about the rules. Sometimes they're thinking a little bit too much about the rules, but yeah, that's sort of the idea. But I would say with the rise of shows like Critical Role, Stranger Things had a huge part to play in it. I think
Critical Role is actually really fun.
Which one?
Critical Role.
Yeah. I am not a huge Critical Role fan. I have been watching their new show on Amazon. It's really fun. I have watched some Critical Role, but I'm just not a huge fan. Right, and it's nothing against it. I think they're great. I just personally enjoy. I don't know. I think of this other shows that I like a bit more. You know what I mean? Like, XP to level 3 is probably like my favorite person to watch when they're doing like Dungeon and Dragon stuff, and that's mostly just because when they're doing like a live stream one, they'll have the map up and you get to see the map, and that's what I'm all about. I love combat when it's D&D. Unfortunately, I did not get to host a campaign this year because first of all, I'm on co-op. Second of all, I'm the president of the club, so I just don't have a lot of time. But when I do play D&D, I'm usually the DM, and I warn my players, like, this is going to be combat heavy. Like, you better be ready for combat. You better be ready for minis. You better be ready for war gaming, essentially. It's what I prepare them for.
You know.
But, yeah, that's my favorite part of D&D is the combat.
I always wanted to make a game that's based off D&D, but is more structured in terms of like board pieces, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's just a war game. That's just you can do that with D&D. You can do that with just miniatures on it. It takes a lot more work. I'm speaking from experience as someone who likes minis. Like, it takes a lot more work to build a world in 3D and even in 2D than it does to build one just in your brain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, your brain can imagine
So-
all these things, and then you gotta. It's like,
Translating it into the real world is the hardest part.
it's like trying to write your name with your right hand and your left hand.
Yeah. It's very difficult. No, but I love role-playing games. I think they're great. But one thing I've been really getting into lately is like actual tabletop war games, which is really cool. So my buddy and I are trying this new game called Monster Apocalypse, which is gonna be really fun. Where you pick a giant monster, and then they pick a giant monster, and you fight each other, and they smash them together, and that's gonna be really cool. He wants to play Star Wars Legion. He's been playing Legion for years now, ever since it came out. So he wants me to play that with him, and I think we're gonna play Games Workshop Warcry together, like Warhammer Warcry. We're gonna try that too. So we've bought in the minis, we just haven't put them together or painted them.
Have you played Dune?
I just bought Dune.
It's really fun.
I just bought the updated version of Dune. You're talking about the board game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just bought the updated version of it. Dune, not Dune Imperium, but like Dune. I bought Dune, a game of conquest or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Nick, which one do we have?
You just have regular Dune, or do you have like Dune Imperium?
I'm not too sure.
Actually, if I find, I can look it up. And
So
pull a picture.
there's a couple of versions of there's Dune Imperium, and then there's Dune, a game of conquest or whatever. And Dune, a game of conquest, and Dune, regular Dune are very, very similar. One of them is just a bit more intense than the other, and it can have more players. And then Dune Imperium is more like is a different game all entirely. So I got Dune.
Which
Conquest.
one is it, Nick?
It's Dune, a game of conquest.
And Diplomacy. That's the
Yeah.
one I just got.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's really,
That's-
really fun.
Yeah.
So-
okay, that's the one Nick is holding up. Nobody can see it right now, but the one Nick is holding up is the original, which has been updated from like the 1990s. The one I got is the one that's more based off of the movie artwork.
This one is also based off the movie artwork too.
Oh, okay. Then it's the same. Then it's the same game. It's just a slight. Dune, a game of conquest and diplomacy, is an upgraded / changed version of like the original Dune. It's just a little faster. That's all. So, but
Yeah.
they're both all really good games. I don't think
I
you
didn't
can go
realize
wrong.
it was even based off a movie because I actually never.
You haven't seen the movie yet?
No.
Oh, the movie's so good, dude.
I
oh,
like the board
I
game.
saw the movie. And
I
that's
just
why
like-
I
good.
actually knew what I was doing when I was playing it with George.
man.
I just like the board game. It was really fun.
not to get
it
on a
came
tangent about
with-
movies, but watch Dune. It was so
It
good.
was like how many? It was like 6, 8 factions.
In the original version, it's 6 factions you can play as. In the new version, it's 4. And it's just because I think it's streamlined slightly.
Oh, so
I
we
think
have
they
the original version because we can play at 6, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, you have the original version then. The new one that came out, which has like the artwork from the movie, I think is only 4 players, and they're coming out with an expansion to make it 6. But It's 4 players because it's the same sort of mechanics as the original game, but it's just a little more streamlined. That's all.
Have you played the original?
No, but I want to.
It's-
I just never found. I just have not found enough fans of it that it's like we could play it. You know
you
what I
can
mean?
play with I think the minimum is 2 people, but it's still really, really fun. Me, Nick, and one of our other friends were playing Dune, which is 3 people. We just cycled out to different things, and it's really cool because they each have each of the factions have different abilities and stuff, and they have different starting areas.
Yeah,
which really matter
the cool
a
thing
lot.
about Dune is that like you don't pay the bank, you pay each other depending on like what your role is.
Unless, like one of those, you don't even get any starting forces on Dune. They all come in from deployment.
Yeah.
But you have a higher capital.
Yeah, exactly.
Which makes sense. So there's pros and cons for everyone.
Yeah, it's a really cool game. If we're talking about like you guys have talked about your top 5, if I'm talking like games that I've been, so my top 5 rotates like all the time.
Oh yeah, I forgot we were talking about that.
No, it's okay. It's totally fine. Like it's not a big deal. But because the problem with me is like my top 5 board games are constantly changing. So right now, Concordia has been like one of my top board games for the last like couple of years. Ever since I bought it, I don't think that game. I never get tired of playing that.
What is Concordia?
Again, it's literally just like better Catan. I guess it's like it's about trading goods during like the height of the Roman Empire and the expanse of the Roman Empire, and like trading goods and like trying to like build trade houses and get more goods and money. And then you get points at the end of the game for the cards in your hand, essentially. It's a really good game. That game is one of my absolute favorites. I still love playing it. I have never been beaten. I don't think I've ever been beaten in that game ever since I started playing it. And I'm not. That's not just me trying to like be narcissistic. I just absolutely love that game. That's how much I play.
Omar, I think we have to try to.
Yeah, you gotta beat me.
I think we have to play him and beat him
I'm
one
gonna be
day.
honest with you, I only played Catan. Never played Catan. Never played thing. I always wanted to try.
I think we have to find a time to beat him, Omar.
Catan is good just because Catan's a good game just because you can buy the expansions and change the game multiple ways. That's like what's the best part about Catan. So Concordia is up there for me. Nemesis is Nemesis is a game that I recently started playing in the last like year or 2. You're turning it the wrong way, Nick.
Keep going. You'll hear a click.
You turn it to the
There
left.
you go.
There you go, buddy. Nick was just turning the speaker down. So Nemesis has been up there. I just got the new Nemesis game, Nemesis Lockdown, the other day. That came in the mail, so I'm excited to play that. Western Legends, haven't played that in a while, but that's probably up there for me. That's like a trilogy of games that came out a couple of years ago. That's pretty good.
Have you heard of Wiz War?
Wizards War or whatever?
Wiz War.
Wiz War? I think so.
So they're on the 9th edition now. Well, they're releasing the 9th edition. They're on the 8th right now.
I think I
Is that what we played on Monday?
Yeah, that's the one we played on Monday. One of the people there has like the original first edition of Wiz War.
Is that
and it's funny because his
okay, yeah, I know this game.
they don't have the original rulebook. They just get the rules from their dad, and also the cards have alterations on them to make the game.
Oh, did Sadie bring it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I was actually looking to see if I can find the 8th edition. I couldn't really find it anywhere, which is sad because I kind of want to.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen this game before.
You have because she brings it every time.
I've never. I don't know. I don't remember the last time. Yeah, I know what this is.
I was so close to winning. Like I got my first treasure so fast, and then Sadie went after me, and I almost died. Like I was gonna kill Nick though. Like next turn I would have got him because he was at 1 health.
I've been playing. So I've also been playing like Magic the Gathering for years. Like I've been playing Magic the Gathering.
I tried Magic the Gathering for like a couple.
I see all the tags.
I did it back in high school for a bit. My brother was more into me. He brought like a lot of cards, and then he had a couple high value cards stolen from him from a kid in his class.
Well, Nick, to your point there, the reason why we talk about Magic the Gathering at our club a lot is just because about half of the people play it. And that's probably like the biggest reason. And it's tough because you want to find a balance, right? You want to be an all-inclusive gaming club, but you want to find a balance between people who want to play board games and people who want to play Magic. You know what I mean? So it's kind of you gotta make sure that everyone's sort of getting the best of both worlds in that situation.
Yeah. How many board games does Board Game Club have?
I don't know, probably like the last time we counted was. It's not too many. It's like 30 regular size games and probably a handful of a box full of card games and stuff like that.
You guys
so.
gotta bring like some different ones up because they bring the same ones every
Well,
week.
we can get anything that people want us to bring up. You know, I can, like, and again, it's this semester's been kind of tough again.
Because of co-op.
Well, 2 people are on co-op, so there's usually only 1 or 2 people bringing up the games, and you know, God bless Sadie, but you know, like, it's harder for Sadie to bring the games up sometimes. You know what I mean? Just because or whatever, but like, it's just tough because if you're the only person doing it, the more games you bring up, the more you got to clean up and bring back down. You know what I mean? So, but if there is something specific that people want to play, like, we will get it. You know what I mean? Or it's tough. What we should do is we should have a list. Well, that would be good. Is we could make a list and take pictures of the stuff we have. But again, everyone's just been so busy with, because specifically this semester, it's just been crazy. You know what I mean? So. But one thing is, we have a lot of people that are willing to bring their own games. We have a member of the club, Reed, who brings his own stuff all the time, and I highly recommend people play his games with him because he is bringing tons of really great games to the club that anyone can try. And as a person who generally plays Magic the Club, because I don't get to play Magic that much, like that, the main reason I generally play Magic is because I play board games with my family. And then I don't have anyone to play Magic with. So that's why I play Magic on when I go to the club meetings. But yeah, we will like get anything people want to play. So yeah. What else have I been playing a lot recently that's really fun? Oh, I've been playing Charterstone. I've been playing legacy games a lot recently. So I've been playing a legacy game with my brother and a legacy game with my best friend. I've been playing Charterstone with my best friend, and I've been playing My City with my brother. And those are tons of fun.
What's My City? My
City is like a tile laying game.
Oh, I love
Yep, really
like
good.
Portray on House on the Hill.
No, more like Tetris. Like Tetris style tile laying games. Like Barron Park. You ever played Barron Park?
Nope.
So what was that game that you just mentioned where you put the tiles into the board?
Blockus.
It's very similar to Blockus in that idea, but you're putting down like tiles in the shapes of houses and stuff like that and trying to like put them together to like score points. Oh. And the game changes over the course of 24 different like chapters or 24 episodes, like within 8 chapters, and you get like points for doing certain things and like building next to trees and stuff like that. It's a really, really good game. And then Charterstone is a game that I've been playing with my best friend, and it's a game about putting like workers down on certain buildings and then like getting resources from those buildings and like putting other workers. It's a worker placement game where you're trying to like score points, but you get to build the board in Charterstone, which is like tons of fun.
What is that you're showing me right
that's
there?
That's Blockus he's showing you right now.
Oh, okay.
It's like a Triano. I can't remember the name of it. It's like Triano.
Oh, that's kind of like that really... Okay, I got a really dumb game from Walmart.
Yeah.
I forget, but it's a cube without... that you can place blocks on all edges, but not the bottom.
Yeah.
Like,
and you put the blocks on the cube, you put one block, you can snake off other ones, and you got to get the most blocks visible on each side.
What was that called?
I don't remember.
There's a whole bunch of like tile laying games that are in this.
Yeah,
Wasn't
but
that
it's
like-
very
but,
3D. Yeah. Is there any game where you explore an ocean? Because that sounds like a really fun game.
Yeah, there's a few. It depends. So if you want to explore like underwater, there's like less.
No,
of
more
them.
like above ground, kind of like.
Oh
Imagine,
yeah.
Imagine
like every pirate game ever made, pretty much. Like
yeah, like tile placement, kind of like Civilization, except you're trying to explore to get. I know. You're trying to explore to get.
Last Bottle of Rum is a really good one.
What's that?
The Last Bottle of Rum is a tile. It's a tile exploration game where you play as like these little anthropomorphic animal pirates, and you so very, very fun, like adorable cartoon artwork, and you have a boat and you have to sail around this map of tiles that are like face down, and then as you go onto tiles you flip them over and discover new islands, and you're trying to find treasure, and then the whole point of the game is to try to be in the first person to score 10 points by finding treasure. Very, very fun little game.
Have you played Sea of Thieves?
Yeah, I play Sea of Thieves on the computer. Yeah, if you're looking for a game like Sea of Thieves, like if you're a fan of Sea of Thieves and you want to play a game like that but actual board game, Merchants and Marauders. Probably. Yeah, Sea of Legends is okay, but Merchants and Marauders is probably better if you want to play that. Merchants and Marauders is fantastic. Like
what's it?
I'm a big.
What about mining? Like
mining games.
Dwarves. I like dwarves.
There's like a game called like Dungeon Builder or Dungeon Explorer or something like that. There's games like that. And then if you're looking for a game like an adventure game, like you could play what's the one? There's like an adventure Indiana Jones style game you can play, which is I can't remember it now. It's gonna drive me nuts. It's like a hexagon based game, and you have to like move through it. Quest for El Dorado. That was it. Quest for El Dorado is really good. There's like not a ton of digging games as like dwarves, but there are like medieval style games you can get though. And I think there is like one game where you are like trying to like dig a tunnel, but I forget what it is. I'm a big pirate fan. I probably own more pirate games than like anything else, like weirdly. That and like adventure games. I own a lot of like pirate games.
Well, talking about board games or video games?
Board games. Actual board games. Like I own like in my entire collection, I probably own like 5 or 6 pirate games, but that's like a lot. like
that is
even I own probably like 130 games or something like that, plus including expansions or whatever, and like having 6 of those all be the same theme is like very rare. So having like 6 or 7 pirate games is crazy. But yeah, I'm a big pirate game fan
so
for some reason.
you said you like competitive games, right?
Yeah, I play a lot. I play more competitive than I do cooperative. Yeah.
What about cooperative competitive?
Those are my favorite cooperative games. If a game has like if a game like Treasure Island where there is cooperative elements to it, but there is moments of competitive nature in it, I like that. I like that more than anything else. So, because you still get the
and you can backstab people.
Yeah, you get the idea of like trying to like compete against each other, but there's like a camaraderie in it, specifically in Treasure Island, which is like really good. Mysterium a little less, but Mysterium kind of the same idea. But yeah, those are I do love games like that. Yeah, I just like full on cooperative, not a huge fan of, but semi-cooperative plus a little bit of like competitiveness to it. Like Nemesis is a really good one. Nemesis in space, you're like you can't actually hurt each other, but you can totally backstab each other, which is like super cool. So I like stuff like that.
All right.
Yeah.
And that will be wrapping up our show for this Sunday. Tune in next week where we're going to be talking about presidents and some fun stories about them, most likely. I don't know. There's some pretty fun ones that you can find.
Do you have a favorite president?
Do I have a favorite? No. I don't know enough presidents to have a favorite one.
Yeah.
I just like the one that got stuck in a bathtub.
I like Theodore Roosevelt. I like Theodore Roosevelt.
He was cool. Isn't he the one that
I love his glasses.
Isn't he the one that got shot?
Yeah, he's the one that got shot and kept giving a speech.
Yeah,
he's
like,
great.
that's fucking badass.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Anyway,
that should be a good podcast for you guys. So.
Yeah, I'll see you guys next
Thanks for having me on, guys. Take care.
Anyway.